In 74 years Academy Awards, only one black man had ever won Best Actor. On March 24, 2002, Denzel Washington became the second, but he didn't win for playing a hero. He won for playing a corrupt cop who lies, steals, and kills without remorse. 12 years earlier, he had already proven himself worthy. 12 years of critical acclaim. 12 years of box office power. Hollywood waited. Why did the industry finally reward Denzel Washington only when he stopped being a symbol of virtue and became the villain? In 1990, Denzel Washington won his first Academy Award for Glory, Best Supporting Actor. He was 35. The industry called him the future. 2 years later, Malcolm X arrived. 3 hours and 22 minutes of intensity, physical transformation, political fire. Many critics said it was a defining performance of the decade. He lost Best Actor to Al Pacino. In 1999, The Hurricane earned him another nomination. Again, no statue. By the early 2000s, his films had grossed hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide. He was among the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. He carried thrillers, historical dramas, courtroom stories. Studios trusted him with $50 million budgets. Audiences trusted him with moral authority. But trust is not the same as power. Then came Training Day in 2001. Budget, $45 million. Global box office, over $100 million. He played Alonzo Harris, a narcotics officer who manipulates rookies, fabricates evidence, and kills without hesitation. The performance was electric, dangerous, uncomfortable. And in 2002, the Academy crowned him Best Actor. 12 years between Oscars, multiple near misses, and the victory came only after he shattered his own image. Was this recognition, or was it the first time Hollywood felt safe applauding him? Denzel Hayes Washington Jr. was born on December 28, 1954, in Mount Vernon, New York. His father was a Pentecostal minister. His mother owned a beauty salon. Faith and discipline shaped the rhythm of the household. Church was not symbolic. It was central. Behavior reflected not only on the child, but on the family name. His father preached about righteousness and consequence. His mother demanded structure. In a working-class black family in the 1950s and 60s, order was protection. Reputation was currency. You did not just succeed for yourself. You carried something larger. But stability did not last. When Denzel was 14, his parents divorced. The fracture changed the atmosphere of his life. He has admitted that during that period, he began drifting, skipping school, testing limits, watching friends move toward trouble. Years later, he would say that many of the boys he grew up with ended up incarcerated. The path was not abstract. It was visible. His mother made a decisive choice. She sent him to Oakland Military Academy in New Windsor, New York. Strict uniforms, early mornings, immediate consequences for failure. That decision, he said, saved him. Military school reshaped him. He learned posture. He learned silence. He learned how to control emotion under scrutiny. Discipline became instinct. He internalized the idea that one mistake can define perception. Control became survival. After graduating, he enrolled at Fordham University in 1973. At first, he did not pursue acting seriously. He explored journalism, medicine, law. He was searching, not chasing fame. Acting emerged almost by accident through campus theater. Yet something about performance felt precise. It demanded focus. It rewarded preparation. It allowed emotion, but only within structure. That balance appealed to him. At Fordham, he also experienced the awareness of being one of few black students in certain spaces. Excellence became armor. Presentation mattered. A misstep would not just be personal. It could confirm bias. This awareness was not paranoia. It was realism. By the time he graduated in 1977, the foundations were set. Discipline from military school, moral framing from church, awareness of perception from lived experience. These forces shaped how he would move through the industry. He did not enter adulthood naive about consequences. He entered cautious, strategic. Later, audiences would see calm authority in his performances. They would interpret it as natural charisma, But beneath that calm was calculation learned early. Stand straight. Speak clearly. Do not give the room a reason to doubt you. In Hollywood decades later, when cameras followed every movement and interviews dissected every word, that childhood conditioning became a shield. The boy who once drifted near trouble had learned something essential. Control the narrative before it controls you. But what happens when control itself becomes a burden? After graduating from Fordham University in 1977, Denzel Washington did not step into Hollywood with hype. He stepped in with training. He continued studying acting at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. Stage work sharpened him. Theater leaves no room for laziness. You either command the room or you disappear. His early film appearances were small. In 1981, he played a supporting role in Carbon Copy. It was not a breakthrough. It was experience. He learned how the camera reads restraint. Film is different from stage. A glance replaces a speech. Silence replaces volume. Then television changes visibility. In 1982, he was cast as Dr. Philip Chandler on NBC's medical drama St. Elsewhere. The show ran for 6 seasons. It offered stability and national recognition. For many actors, that would have been enough. But stability can become a ceiling. Throughout the 1980s, Denzel built a reputation for professionalism. He arrived prepared. He avoided gossip. He did not chase tabloid attention. Directors trusted him. Producers valued him. Yet even in those years, he understood the unspoken rule of Hollywood. Television actors are often confined to television. By 1988, he made a decisive choice. He left St. Elsewhere. No guarantee of immediate success. No assurance of comparable income. It was a risk grounded in confidence. Then came 1989. Glory. He portrayed Private Trip, a rebellious former slave serving in the Union Army's first all-black regiment. The performance was layered with anger, humiliation, and pride. In one pivotal scene, he stands shirtless as he is whipped for desertion. A single tear falls. He does not scream. He does not beg. The restraint made the moment unforgettable. At age 35, he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. The industry responded quickly. Media narratives began forming around him. He was compared to Sidney Poitier, the first black man to win Best Actor in 1964. The implication was clear. Denzel was not just an actor. He was an heir to representation. That praise carried weight. From that point forward, scripts were not neutral. Each role was measured. Was it dignified? Was it politically responsible? Would it reinforce stereotype? These questions hovered around him more than around many of his white peers. He did not publicly resist the comparisons. He did not reject the symbolism. He remained composed, focused, controlled, but internally, a new awareness sharpened. His career was no longer only about craft. It was about perception. He was expected to embody something steady, respectable, exemplary. He began moving carefully, choosing roles with gravity, avoiding frivolity, avoiding scandal. His private life remained guarded. Marriage, children, no headlines. This was a private path. Outward success paired with inward calculation. Public applause paired with private responsibility. He had earned the Oscar, but with it came an invisible contract. The industry now watched not only how he performed, but what he represented. When success transforms you into a symbol, does the applause feel like freedom or like supervision? The 1990s solidified Denzel Washington as one of the most powerful leading men in Hollywood. In 1992, Malcolm X arrived. Directed by Spike Lee, the film ran over 3 hours. It traced the evolution of a man from street hustler to revolutionary leader. Denzel's transformation was meticulous. He studied speeches. He mastered cadence. He mirrored posture. The performance demanded stamina and conviction. Critics praised it as historic. Many believed the Academy would reward it. That year, he lost Best Actor to Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman. The loss was not loud. There was no public complaint, but it reinforced a pattern. Denzel was admired. He was celebrated. Yet ultimate recognition seemed distant. Throughout the decade, his presence at the box office grew stronger. The Pelican Brief in 1993 paired him with Julia Roberts. Crimson Tide in 1995 placed him opposite Gene Hackman. Courage Under Fire in 1996. Fallen in 1998. The Siege the same year. Each project reinforces authority on screen. He was not a side character. He carried films. Studios entrusted him with budgets exceeding $40 to $50 million. His name guaranteed credibility. In 1999, The Hurricane earned him another Best Actor nomination. He portrayed Reuben "Hurricane" Carter, a boxer wrongfully imprisoned for nearly 2 decades. The role demanded both rage and restraint. Again, he was praised. Again, he did not win. By the turn of the millennium, he was among the highest-paid actors in the industry. His global box office numbers climbed into the hundreds of millions. Financially, he had arrived. But image is more powerful than money. By the late 1990s, Denzel Washington had become synonymous with moral authority. He played military officers, lawyers, investigators, leaders. His characters were intelligent, principled, composed under pressure. Audiences trusted him instinctively. Hollywood leaned into that trust. Marketing campaigns framed him as stability personified. Interviews highlighted discipline, faith, and family life. He was a reliable one, the safe one, the serious one. Safety can become confinement. The more consistently he portrayed honor, the narrower the expectation became. Risk would not only affect a career, it could affect perception across an entire community. For a black leading man operating at that level in the 1990s, deviation carried consequence. He understood that every role choice could echo beyond the screen. Behind the spotlight, the tension intensified. Success was real. Recognition was partial. Respect was consistent. But freedom remained conditional. Was he being rewarded for excellence or for fitting comfortably within the industry's preferred version of respectability? The dark side of Denzel Washington's story was never scandal. It was expectation. From the early 1990s onward, he carried 2 careers at once. The first was visible. Films, premieres, award nominations, rising salaries. The second was invisible, the weight of representation. By the time he finished Malcolm X in 1992, the comparison to Sidney Poitier had solidified. Poitier had been Hollywood's acceptable black leading man in the 1960s. Dignified, measured, morally upright, he carried Infraction Era symbolism on his shoulders. Denzel inherited that legacy in a different era, but the template remained. The industry had a comfort zone. Black leading men could be heroic, inspirational, safe, but complexity, especially moral ambiguity, triggered discomfort. For white actors, villainy expanded range. For black actors, villainy risked stereotype. Denzel understood this tension. In interviews, he was careful. He avoided incendiary political commentary. He spoke about discipline, faith, gratitude. He rarely fed controversy. It was strategic. He knew the margin for error was thinner. At the same time, something inside him resisted the narrowing frame. Acting thrives on contradiction. Great performances require darkness as much as light, yet he was increasingly cast as the embodiment of steadiness. Behind closed doors, scripts circulated that repeated a pattern. Honorable officer, righteous attorney, principled leader. These roles reinforced his public image. They also boxed him in. By the late 1990s, his career was secure. His films generated consistent revenue. His salary reportedly reached 8 figures per project. Financially, he had freedom, but artistic freedom is different from financial security. Then came Training Day. The script was blunt. Alonzo Harris was not misunderstood. He was manipulative, charismatic, corrupt. He planted evidence. He exploited young officers. He justified brutality as survival. Accepting the role meant dismantling an image cultivated for over a decade. Some questioned the decision. Why play a character that feeds negative archetypes? Why step into moral darkness when you are already respected? But perhaps that question revealed the trap. If Denzel could only play virtue, was that not another form of limitation? Filming Training Day required a different energy. He allowed himself to be loose, predatory, unpredictable. The famous line, "King Kong ain't got nothing on me," was not restrained authority. It was swagger. It was menace. Audiences reacted immediately. They leaned forward instead of sitting comfortably. For the first time in years, viewers were unsure where he would go next in the scene. The performance shattered certainty. When the Oscar nomination followed, the tension intensified. If he won, what would it mean? If he lost again, what would that signal? On March 24th, 2002, he won Best Actor. The applause was thunderous. Halle Berry won Best Actress the same night, another historic first. The optics were powerful, a narrative of progress. But beneath the celebration was a quieter irony. He had been nominated before for portraying moral giants. He won for embodying corruption. Was that coincidence or commentary? This was not external collapse. It was internal friction. Years of restraint, years of strategic movement, years of carrying an invisible responsibility. And now, recognition came only after he stepped outside the moral boundary assigned to him. Did that victory confirm artistic freedom, or expose the limits that had existed all along? Winning the Oscar in 2002 should have resolved the tension. Instead, it sharpened it. For 12 years, Denzel Washington had moved carefully through the industry. He proved box office reliability. He avoided scandal. He upheld a public image of discipline and stability. He lost Best Actor twice before finally winning it. And when he did win, it was for playing a man without a moral center. The symbolism was unavoidable. Hollywood applauded complexity, but only when that complexity felt controlled. Alonzo Harris was corrupt, yes, but he was charismatic, entertaining, contained within fiction. The danger ended when the credits rolled. The system could celebrate that version of darkness. But what about the years before? Malcolm X had been politically charged. The hurricane exposed systemic injustice. Those roles carried real-world implications. They forced audiences to confront uncomfortable histories. Training Day, by contrast, was thrilling, stylized, marketable. Was the Academy rewarding artistic range, or rewarding a performance that fit comfortably within genre expectations? Internally, this contradiction lingered. Denzel has often spoken about ego as a threat. He has referenced the danger of believing applause too deeply. Success, he has implied, can distort judgment. It can make you forget where you came from. The internal collapse was not a breakdown. It was pressure to maintain dignity, pressure to remain exemplary, pressure to avoid mistakes that would be amplified differently for him than for others. As his salary climbed past $20 million per film in the 2000s, expectations climbed with it. A high-profile black actor earning that level of compensation was not just a performer. He was a data point, a benchmark, a case study. Every underperforming film risked narrative, every public misstep risked headline. He maintained control. No tabloid implosions, no public feuds, no spirals. But control is exhausting. To sustain authority on screen and composure off-screen for decades requires constant calibration, interviews measured, roles considered, public appearances deliberate. The internal question grew more complex. If he continued playing heroes, he would remain safe, but confined. If he embraced flawed characters, he risked criticism, but gained freedom. The Oscar did not erase that dilemma. It exposed it. After 2002, the industry no longer questioned his legitimacy. 2 Academy Awards ended that debate. Yet legitimacy is not the same as liberation. The deeper tension was about authorship. Who defines the image? The studio? The audience? The historical moment? Or the actor himself? For years, Denzel Washington had navigated a narrow corridor, successful but monitored. Training Day widened that corridor. But widening a corridor also means stepping into open space. And open space comes with uncertainty. The dark side of a story is not downfall. It is endurance under scrutiny. It is the discipline of carrying symbolism without letting it swallow identity. He won the Oscar. He shattered the image. He proved range. Yet the question remains. When you spend decades being careful not to fall, do you ever get to simply walk without calculation? After 2002, something shifted. Denzel Washington no longer needed validation. 2 Academy Awards had sealed his position in history. The debate about legitimacy was over. What remained was choice. And choice changes a man. Instead of protecting an image, he began testing its edges. In 2004, Man on Fire presented a different kind of hero. John Creasy was not clean. He was broken, alcoholic, haunted. His redemption came through violence and sacrifice, not moral purity. The audience did not see the stable authority figure. They saw a man unraveling before rebuilding. In 2007, American Gangster placed him on the other side of the law again. Frank Lucas was controlled, strategic, ruthless, not chaotic like Alonzo Harris, but equally morally compromised. The performance was cold and disciplined. It was not about rage. It was about quiet calculation. Then in 2012, Flight pushed the tension further. Captain Whip Whitaker saves 96 people during a catastrophic plane malfunction. The media calls him a hero, but he is also an alcoholic who flies drunk. The film forces viewers to hold two truths at once: competence and self-destruction. The pattern was clear. Denzel was no longer interested in safe admiration. He was interested in contradiction. At the same time, he began stepping behind the camera. Antoine Fisher in 2002 marked his directorial debut. The Great Debaters in 2007. Later, Fences in 2016. Directing meant control over narrative. It meant shaping stories rather than simply inhabiting them. This was not rebellion. It was recalibration. He did not attack the system. He did not make grand statements about injustice in interviews. Instead, he expanded his own authority within it. Producing, directing, mentoring. Financial power became creative leverage. There was also a noticeable steadiness in how he spoke about fame. He often referenced gratitude. He referenced God. He warned against obsession with awards. Publicly, he downplayed the symbolism of his Oscar wins. Perhaps that was strategic, or perhaps it was survival, because after breaking the image once, he no longer needed to prove that he could. The rebirth was subtle. He did not abandon discipline. He refined it. Instead of being the industry symbol, he selected roles that explored weakness without surrendering strength. He portrayed flawed men who still commanded the screen. Complexity replaced conformity. And quietly, the pressure shifted. Younger actors began citing him as inspiration. Michael B. Jordan, Chadwick Boseman. He no longer carried representation alone. The landscape had widened. The turning point was not a scandal, not a collapse, not a dramatic reinvention. It was a shift in posture. Before 2002, he navigated expectation carefully. After 2002, he navigated on his own terms. The question changed from "Am I allowed?" to "What do I want to explore?" And when an actor stops asking permission, something fundamental changes. Was this the moment Denzel Washington finally stepped out from under the weight of being a symbol and into the freedom of being an artist? By the 2010s, Denzel Washington was no longer simply a leading man. He was infrastructure. His presence carried history. 2 Academy Awards, 9 nominations, decades of box office consistency. His films had grossed billions globally, but statistics only tell part of the story. Longevity tells the rest. In an industry defined by volatility, his personal life remained remarkably steady. Married to Pauletta Washington since 1983. 4 children, no public implosions, no sensational headlines. Stability became part of his mythology, but mythology can be misleading. Stability does not mean ease. It means maintenance, discipline, priorities chosen repeatedly over temptation. He returned to the stage repeatedly, even after conquering film, Broadway and Fences, A Raisin in the Sun. The stage does not flatter. It demands presence. Returning there was not about visibility. It was about craft. He also invested quietly in others, mentoring young actors, supporting theater programs, funding education initiatives. Many of these actions were not broadcast widely. They did not fit into a promotional cycle. They fit into legacy. Legacy, for Denzel, seems less about statues and more about access. When Chadwick Boseman passed away in 2020, it was revealed that Denzel had privately paid for Boseman's education years earlier. The gesture was not announced at the time. It surfaced later. That detail reframed as influence. Influence is not always loud. Culturally, he shifted perception. In the 1990s, a black leading man anchoring mainstream thrillers was still rare. By the 2010s, it was normalized. That normalization did not happen by accident. It required consistency, bankability, reliability under pressure. He made it harder for the industry to claim risk where there was none. Yet even in later years, he avoided grand claims about progress. In interviews, he often redirected attention toward work ethic rather than politics. Some critics wished for louder activism. Others saw wisdom in restraint. Perhaps his method was always the same. Control what you can. Move deliberately. Let performance speak first. Now, as younger actors operate in a more diverse landscape, his early balancing act becomes clearer. He walked a narrow path so others could walk wider ones. But legacy is complicated. He was celebrated for discipline. He was rewarded for complexity. He navigated expectation without collapse. Still, the core tension of his story remains. Was the burden worth the outcome? And when history remembers him, will it focus on the awards or on the weight he carried quietly to earn them? Denzel Washington's story is not about scandal. It is about endurance. 74 years of Academy Awards before a second black man won Best Actor. 12 years between his own 2 Oscars. Decades of navigating perception, expectation, and scrutiny. He mastered discipline early. He mastered image carefully. He shattered it strategically. The system celebrated him when he embodied virtue. It crowned him when he embraced corruption. The irony never disappeared. It simply became part of the narrative. But perhaps the real victory was not the statue in 2002. Perhaps it was a refusal to let symbolism erase individuality. He did not collapse. He did not explode. He did not rebel publicly. He endured. And in enduring, he reshaped the definition of what a leading man could look like. When applause fades and trophies gather dust, what remains is posture, choice, control. Denzel Washington carried the weight of representation without surrendering the right to complexity. And maybe that is the quiet revolution hidden inside his career. When the spotlight moves on, what will matter more, the award he won or the freedom he carved out within a system that never made that freedom easy?